The psalmist records in chapter 75, he declares, "We thank you, O God. We give you thanks because you are near. People everywhere tell of your wonderful deeds." God says, "At the time I have planned, I will bring justice against the wicked. When the earth quakes and its people live in turmoil, I am the one who keeps its foundations firm." A reading from the Moravian Daily Text for today, the 14th day of June, 2017. The Lord says, "When they call to me, I will answer them." The doctrinal text declares, Paul wrote, "The Spirit helps us in our weaknesses, for we do not know how to pray as we ought. But that very Spirit intercedes with sighs too deep for words." And therefore, loving God, against this understanding that you attend to the prayers of your children, we surrender ourselves before your ardent throne and petition you for your blessings on this fair land of ours, St. Christopher and Nevis. We acknowledge your sovereignty and do good to revere your excellence, which causes us to fall to our knees crying, "Lord, have mercy. Create in us a clean heart and give us the right attitude." Thank you for pardoning us, or thank you for your pardoning power that continues to transform us as a people. Today, we are guided by your word, which says we give honor to those whom honor is due. And therefore, we present all our recipients of awards and their families to you and continue to declare your blessings over them. Bless our Governor General and his family, the Prime Minister and his family, and all other government ministers and their families, this nation and all families here and across the world, because you are our God and King. In Jesus' name we pray with thanksgiving, and we all say, Amen.
Lady Huldah Lawrence. Lady Huldah Lawrence has been recognized for her long and meritorious service to the St. Kitts and Nevis community in the field of music. She's a national resource who has been greatly influential in the training and practice of the musical art in our community. Lady Lawrence started her pianoforte School of Music back in 1973, shortly after returning from the UK. And since then, she has gone from strength to strength based on her character of will and determination. Thousands of St. Kitts and Nevis music lovers and students, some in the second generation, can now be a witness to her expertise, intuition, and practice in a range of musical instruments, leading to international musical qualification, such as the Royal College of Music. Evidence of her musical expertise and practice include the following: the annual concert recital of her music school. In 2016, she showed excellence as usual in delivering her 35th consecutive annual concert with her past and present students. This is no small feat when some 70+ music students demonstrate their varied musical competence to our society. Her contribution to the music literature. Her published compositions include some national songs, which most of us have appreciated and enjoyed. Her leadership in the St. Kitts and Nevis musical world. She helped form the St. Kitts Music Lovers Association, of which she was president over many years, and now continues to be a guiding light in the musical appreciation in our community. Her practical work in establishing and supporting church music. Currently, she's the organist at St. Peter's Anglican Church, but until recently, her tireless efforts permit her to be the organist at the earlier service at Trinity Church as well. Mother and teacher. Lady Lawrence is the mother of 6 daughters, all of whom are accomplished musicians in their own right. Our society owes a debt of gratitude to Lady Huldah Lawrence for her work in the leadership of appreciation and the practice of music in our community. Music has the potential to calm the troubled breast. Thus, this may be part of a potential solution to some of our current societal problems. We salute and recognize Lady Huldah Lawrence with the award of the Companion of the Star of Merit, CSM. Lady Huldah Lawrence.
Mrs. Delia John's commitment to achieving the best at her task led her to being the Girl Guide chosen to represent St. Kitts at a Girl Guides camp in England. To support her zeal, her grandmother had mortgaged her home to pay the passage. This success could have laid the foundation for her development and achievement in her career, achieving the best for the benefit of her students for over 40 years, starting as a pupil teacher at 16 years old. She progressed from pupil teacher at Molyneux by attending after-work classes. One of her subjects was home economics, supervised by Mrs. Ada Mae Edwards. At the St. Kitts Teachers College, Burden Street, her diligent research study was training in home economics at the grassroots level, while the teaching practice was carried on at the Sandy Point High School. After qualifying as a fully trained assistant teacher, she was promoted to the post of home economics teacher at the Sandy Point High School. She was awarded a scholarship to Seaford Training College, England, to widen her knowledge and improve her skills for the teaching at the secondary school level. Mrs. John was promoted to tutor in hotel trades at the Technical College. She was again awarded another scholarship, this time to Canada. When the new Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College opened its hospitality wing, Mrs. John and a teammate, Mrs. Elenita Nathaniel, pioneered a hospitality training program which included front desk training. As a result, the hospitality wing was named the Nathaniel John Hospitality Wing in their honor. She did voluntary tutoring in fine dining. This was an evening course organized by the Youth Skills Department. She was past secretary of the St. Kitts Flower Arrangers Association, member of the church choir and the St. Christopher Chorale Choir, and an active member of the St. Kitts Cancer Society. Mrs. John is the recipient of the award of the Medal of Honor in the 2016 Independence Awards for outstanding and meritorious service to the nation. Mrs. Delia John, Medal of Honor.
Mrs. Vanta Elladine Walters. Mrs. Vanta Elladine Walters worked in the field of education for over 40 years. 20 of those years were at the primary education level from 1970 to 1990. During those years, she held several positions, which included teacher at the infant department of the St. Johnson Village School, now the Dr. William Connor Primary School. Head of the infant department, deputy head, and acting head teacher on several occasions at the said Dr. William Connor Primary School. Head teacher at the Irish Town Primary School. School broadcasting officer at the School Broadcasting Unit, Ministry of Education. Teacher at the Joseph Nathaniel France General Hospital Children's Ward. For the next 20 years, from 1990 to 2010, Mrs. Vanta Walters was the Federation's National Early Childhood Development Coordinator and delegate of St. Kitts and Nevis to the Directing Council of the Inter-American Children's Institute, headquarters in Uruguay. Her professional experiences include coordinator of UNICEF programs or activities in the Federation. She conducted numerous educational workshops for various educational institutions. She assessed early childhood interns from Sovo, Trinidad, prepared social studies material for use in primary school, served on the Probation and Child Welfare Board, the UNESCO Education Committee, Ministry of Education Program Budgeting Committee, Curriculum Development Committee, National Education Planning Committee, Task Force with responsibility for children and youth with disabilities, Program Management Unit of the World Food Program, etc. During her tenure as this country early childhood coordinator, Mrs. Walters not only made great impact on the local scene, but also on the regional and international scenes. Her local impacts includes St. Kitts and Nevis leading the way in early childhood development in the region. First in the region to implement the process of licensing of centers. Introduce a comprehensive training program for parents in better parenting. Introduce the Reaching the Unreached program for children not enrolled in any formal early childhood institution. Development of a new policy for early childhood in St. Kitts and Nevis. Increased access to high-quality early childhood care and education. Upgraded all childhood centers. Several new centers constructed. Improvement in the status of ECD teachers. Preparation of preschool curriculum guides. Successfully organized the first Father's Only Parade as part of a Child Month celebration. Developed comprehensive resource center and toy lending library. Hosted many meetings, workshops, and conferences. Successfully presented proposals and obtained funding for numerous major early childhood projects from the following agencies: the OAS, UNICEF, Japanese Grassroots Project, German Embassy, Venezuela Rural Expansion Project, and UNESCO. Her regional impact includes she serves on the Caribbean Support Initiative, CSI, Committee for Early Childhood, conducted workshop in Antigua and Barbuda, worked with regional counterparts in St. Lucia on the development of the first Caribbean monitoring checklist to assess the standards of centers for licensing. Early childhood officials from almost every country in the region to observe our program, to be attached and to receive training. Her international impacts includes Organization of American States Planning Meeting for National Coordinators, Hemispheric Project, held in the Bahamas. The topic, Designing Policies and Strategies for Preventing School Failure. She made a presentation on the St. Kitts and Nevis early childhood experience. She was the only Caribbean representative at the 71st meeting of the Directing Council of the International American Children Institute and the 17th Pan American Child Congress held in Costa Rica. She participated in the High Scope Early Childhood Conference held in Michigan in 2009. Other activities of Mrs. Walters include: she was trustee of the St. Kitts Teachers Union and represented it at regional conferences. Was chairperson of the Caribbean Union of Teachers Committee for the production of a quarterly cariculture magazine. Worked on the training as the first training facilitator with the People's Empowerment Program, Early Childhood. Presently, she's the chairperson of the Recreational Subcommittee of the Mattingly Enhancement Community Organization and worked as BNTS training facilitator for early childhood caregivers. We proudly salute Ms. Vanta Elodine Walters for the Medal of Honor in the field of early childhood development. Mrs. Vanta Elodine Walters.
This woman, in the last almost 4 decades, has brought radical transformation to the lives of special needs children and much recognition to our nation through Special Olympics. In 1980, she took her first step into the water when she officially launched into a career which was not well known and very unpopular in the 1980s. From that day onward, she has not looked back. She exudes the qualities of caring and conscientious, loving and laboring, active and ambitious, reliable and resourceful, incomparable, indomitable, and enduring. The epitome of what Special Olympics believes and stands for. These words very aptly describe someone who has given almost half of her working life to the cause of special needs children in special education and Special Olympics nationally, regionally, and internationally. Ms. Clarice Cotton is a pioneer and a trailblazer for Special Olympics. She accompanied her first St. Kitts Nevis Special Olympics national team to Special Olympics International Games in 1991 and has been present and involved in every single international summer games since then. Ms. Cotton served for many years in the capacity of National Director for Special Olympics, a position which placed her at the helm and one which she handled with passion and purpose for over 23 years, not flinching at challenges and obstacles, but forging frontiers to get the most out of the organization for the special athletes. She demonstrated her love by her actions and did so with the highest distinction. Among other things, she has been involved in the preparation of the teams and fundraising for every international games since the inception of Special Olympics in St. Kitts and Nevis, not because of her position, but because she cared. She has sacrificed herself, her time, and her financial resources to ensure that the country was involved in Special Olympics activities locally, regionally, and internationally. She blazed the trail as she could be seen walking the streets of Bastia, soliciting funds from business houses to take her athletes to the World Games. Special Olympics was her mission to fulfill. She birthed, nurtured, and nursed it when its health seemed to be failing. She brought it to where it is today. During her years with Special Olympics, she served the special athletes and their families in St. Kitts and Nevis in every possible area. As a teacher and head teacher, she was a champion for the hearing impaired, physically challenged, and visually impaired. In 2010, the Special Education Unit was renamed the Cotton Thomas Comprehensive School in honor of Miss Cotton and fellow special education teacher Miss Annette Thomas. As an educator, she advanced from teacher, head teacher, education officer, and chief education officer as she guided the development of our nation's children. Since her retirement in 2015, Ms. Cotton volunteered at the Addie's Place, a center for the adults with disabilities. She is a God-fearing woman who attends the Gospel Hall Church in her community, where she is very active. She has started a Sunday school in West Farm at her home, and this has outgrown that space. The Sunday school also has a very successful banking scheme. The nation proudly salutes the woman who we endearingly dub Mother of Special Olympics St. Kitts and Nevis Chapter, Miss Clarice Cotton, Medal of Honor.
Mrs. Sylvia Gwendolyn Isaac. Mrs. Sylvia Gwendolyn Isaac received her formal education at the Tabernacle Government School. She began her nursing career on the 17th of April 1967 at the Joseph Nathaniel France General Hospital. She worked at the said hospital for many years, having reached the position of staff nurse midwife. She was transferred to the district in 1974 and worked as a district nurse in the St. Mary's and Christchurch communities. In 1980, she received further training in Jamaica School of Public Health and graduated in 1981 with a diploma in public health. She returned home and continued work as a trained public health nurse. During her period of service to the Molyneux community, Nurse Isaac was humble but excited to be afforded the opportunity for preparing the layout and functioning of the building earmarked to be the Mary Charles Hospital. She was responsible for the training and supervising of all staff at the new hospital and was later appointed nurse manager. In 1994, Nurse Isaac was transferred to Bastia as the supervisor of public health nurses and later promoted to coordinator of public health nurses. She worked as coordinator of the communicable and non-communicable diseases with responsibility for controlling programs. She also coordinated all activities related to maternal and child health services. She held various positions, including that of Registrar of the Nursing Council of St. Kitts and Nevis. Nurse Isaac was appointed the first nurse epidemiologist surveillance officer in St. Kitts and Nevis. In her preparation for this position, she underwent training at the Caribbean Epidemiology Center, CAREC, in Trinidad. On her return, she was tasked with the responsibility to scientifically research the Hanson home, where lepers were housed in Sandy Point. In collaboration with CAREC, the findings confirmed that St. Kitts and Nevis no longer had any cases of leprosy. Hence, she recommended that the Hansen home be closed. This recommendation was accepted by the government, and today the Hansen home remains closed and no reported cases of leprosy in the Federation. She again worked in collaboration with CAREC to arrest the outbreak of hepatitis A and possibly hepatitis B in St. Kitts. Nurse Isaac collaborated with other nursing personnel in the Caribbean, and together they wrote the first manual on the nursing management of persons with HIV/AIDS. This manual was published in 1990 and was revised in 1991. She was also among a group of professionals who wrote and presented a document entitled "The Standard and Policies That Govern the Nursing System in St. Kitts and Nevis." This document is still in use today. Nurse Isaac was called upon many times to accompany consultants from PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, and the World Health Organization, to assess the health systems of other countries. Today, she's often invited to use her expertise to lecture and counsel individuals and or families, not only in her district, but around the island on matters relating to health. Nurse Isaac was not all work. She was instrumental in forming the Lodge and Molyneux Choral Group, which was comprised of young and old. Many concerts were held in and around the surrounding area to raise funds to supply the Mary Charles Hospital with linen, utilities, and other needed supplies. Nurse Sylvia Isaac officially retired from the public service in 2004, having made an outstanding contribution to nursing in the Federation. While officially retired in 2004, Nurse Isaac supervised the St. Christopher Children's Home in Bastia. While her time there was short, she formed many friendships, which remain today, and is pleased that she was able to implement a file and record-keeping system to improve the management and accountability at that institution. Today, we proudly salute Mrs. Sylvia Gwendolyn Isaac for the Medal of Honor in the field of nursing.
Mr. Maurice A. Widdowson was born in northern England. Started a part-time business at the age of 14 as a weekend market trader, selling bobbins of cotton and pieces of cloth. As expected, he joined his family business after grammar school. After a few months, he returned to full-time market trading in and around Leeds, West Yorkshire. After 2 or 3 years, he joined one of Britain's largest store groups, Littlewoods. After 4 years, he was appointed Assistant General Manager at their flagship store in Oxford Street, London. Mr. Wooderson resigned while in this position. Anxious to see more of the world, Mr. Wooderson joined a large international company, Booker's. Booker's had interests worldwide, which included shipping, agriculture, engineering, pharmaceutical, and much more interesting for Mr. Wooderson, retailing. Arriving in Zambia, Mr. Wooderson was put in charge of 123 bush shops. This meant no urban areas. He spent 4 years covering a country 2.5 times the size of the United Kingdom. He wistfully reflects that this time was the best time of his life. After the bush, he was called into the Copper Belt, where he took over Kitwe Store, Zambia's largest supermarket chain. The store was on strike when the youthful Mr. Wooderson arrived. Unknown to him at the time, the Zambian staff called him the Picanini Biwana. He managed the 5 main stores until his resignation after a total of 8 amazing years in Central Africa. Booker's offered him an opportunity to join their retail operation in the Caribbean. He moved with Booker's to St. Lucia, where the parent company had acquired the main trading company, Miniviel Chastenay. His love affair with the Caribbean grew in St. Lucia. Not wanting to leave the Caribbean, he became a consultant while putting his future plans together. Mr. Wooderson, along with a local partner and friend, started TV City, selling exclusively Curtis Mathis TVs from St. Kitts. His consultancy work with Booker's took him to Canada, St. Vincent, Tortola, but more importantly, St. Kitts. Having had his business proposals rejected several times by the authorities in St. Lucia and Trinidad, he had no hesitation in taking his new plans to St. Kitts, an island for which he was already developing a strong passion. In 1976, he discovered a rundown Romney Manor, and after successful negotiations with the St. Kitts government, he was able to lease the property. He later purchased Romney Manor, and a few years later, he acquired Wingfield Estate. Romney Manor, the home of Carabel Batik, has developed over the years to become the island's most visited spot. Its product is unique and recognized for its quality and style. The gardens and grounds attract repeat visitors year after year. It is a site of great beauty and hosts local weddings and special events. Following the acquisition of Wingfield Estate, Mr. Wooderson cleared the site and stabilized the masonry. The discovery of long abandoned buildings, subterranean stoneworks, and many artifacts led to research, which provided astonishing results. The site has great historic significance. It is with some pride that in the past 40 years, Mr. Wooderson has never applied for a work permit. His management team are all female. Carabel Batik and Wingfield Estate have received recognition throughout the region and beyond. Mr. Wooderson is today awarded the Medal of Honor for his outstanding contribution to tourism. Mr. Wooderson.
Miss Vanta Archibald. Miss Vanta Archibald describes herself as a God-fearing, hard-working, community-oriented woman who has always had the best interests of her community and country at heart. Hailing out of Tabernacle St. Kitts, she was a pupil teacher at Tabernacle Elementary and Keon Primary. She served as acting head teacher to the Mansion Primary, Irishtown Primary, and St. Johnston Village Primary before going off to the Mona campus of the University of the West Indies, where she obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree in library studies. She subsequently served as chief librarian. As part of her library work, she has represented the Federation at regional and international conferences, and her contributions are etched in documents in Trinidad, the United Kingdom, and the United States of America. She has always been a community-minded person and has been an active church leader, Sunday school teacher for over 30 years, treasurer of the Estridge Moravian Church, a Brownie Guide leader, a pioneer in promoting Festab in 1982, active in storytelling, Christmas caroling to the sick and shut-in, and mentoring of young professionals and children. She's tireless in promoting the traditions of her village so that they are not lost to time. She was a vice president of the St. Christopher Heritage Society, president of the Moravian Senior Club of St. Kitts, and a board member of the Alzheimer's Association of St. Kitts and Nevis. We salute Miss Vanta E. Archibald, member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire, MBE.
Mr. L. Comedo Willett. Mr. L. Comedo Willett was the first man from the Leeward Islands to play for the West Indies when he made his debut as a 19-year-old against Australia in 1972-73. He took 2 wickets and 5 in the next 2 tests, including his best of 3 for 43 at Port of Spain. It was enough to ensure he toured England in 1973, where he took 30 wickets but was unable to break into the test side. He then toured India and Pakistan in 1974-75, taking 2 wickets in each of his tests. On his debut, Willett bowled more overs than any other bowler in the match, quite a feat considering that his spin partner was the legendary Lance Gibbs. During his international career, Willett featured in 5 tests, taking 11 wickets. Mr. El Comedo Willett is the uncle of former West Indies opener Stuart Williams, and his 2 sons, Tonito and Akito, have both represented the Leeward Islands. He made his international debut under Captain Rohan Kanai and played his last test in 1975 under Clive Lloyd against India at Eden Gardens in Calcutta. The El Comedo Willett Park, formerly Grove Park, in Nevis, is named in his honor. He can be described as a quiet, affable, and humble man, as one of the genuine trailblazers in West Indies cricket. He ensured that the door was opened to Leeward Island players in particular as they forged a new path in the regional game. We salute Mr. El Comido Willett, MBE, MH Medal of Honor, member of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire.
Our Governor General, His Excellency Sir S. W. Tapley Seaton, Honorable Ian Patches Liebert, Minister of Public Infrastructure et al., Honorable Wendy Phipps, Minister of State and Junior Minister in the Ministry of Health et al., Honorable Senator Akila Byron Nisbet, the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. the Right Excellent and the Right Honorable Sir Kennedy Simmons and Lady Simmons, Lieutenant Colonel Patrick Wallace, Commander of the Defense Force, Mr. Ian Quealy, Commissioner of Police, Mr. Michael Morton, CBE, JP, and Mrs. Morton, Reverend Hilton Joseph, members of the press, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, our special honorees, good morning to all. This morning, first of all, I bring you apologies on behalf of the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris, who up until perhaps an hour or so ago intended to be here at this ceremony, but unfortunately, due to other developments, is unable to be with us this morning. I also bring you apologies on behalf of the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Vance Amry, the Honorable Eugene Hamilton, and the Honorable Lindsay Fitzpatrick Grant. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathered here this morning for what I consider to be a very significant ceremony, a ceremony in which we are here to honor and to say thanks to some of the most outstanding citizens of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. I say that it is significant because these are persons who individually and collectively have made very deep contributions towards our own development as a federation. As I listen to the profiles of the individual persons and I reflect upon the current trust of this government and the trust of governments past, I concluded that these are persons who have made what we have been doing much easier. Several different aspects of our own development, I think, have been brought to the forefront this morning in looking at what the individuals here have contributed to the development of our society. Lady Huldah Lawrence, one who has excelled in the field of music and who has taught many persons here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis to play different instruments, to become what we can perhaps consider to be experts also in the field of music. She has made a significant contribution. As recently as about 2 to 3 weeks ago, we had a meeting at the Boardwalk Beach Hotel looking at our own cultural policy here in St. Kitts and Nevis, developing our national cultural policy. Our cultural policy, of course, takes into consideration all of the different aspects of our cultural development, be it music or be it any other art form such as dancing, our tangible cultural heritage, our intangible cultural heritage. And as we put that cultural policy in place, it is persons like Lady Huldah Lawrence who makes it quite easy for the government and for the Department of Culture, because a foundation has already been laid upon which we are able to build. We already have persons trained, we already have practitioners, and it is because we have those cadre of persons, it becomes an easier task for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Mrs. John, one who has given service in the field of hospitality, in the field of food and nutrition. CFBC in particular has a wing which has been named after Mrs. John for her pioneering and significant work in this field. As we look at our own people, we look at the preparation of our food, Minister Phipps certainly would agree with me that as we tackle some of the health problems that we have here in St. Kitts and Nevis, certainly the work that Mrs. John would have done in this field would help us as a nation to continue in that vein. As we try to expand the tourism industry and we begin to train more and more persons to take advantage of jobs which are coming available in the tourism industry, Mrs. John would have played her own part in training our people. She would have trained other persons who in turn are now providing that particular training for our people. Lady Vanta Walters, a pioneer in the field of education, one whose name is often associated with that of early childhood education. Early childhood education, I think we can all agree, is an important aspect of our own development as we try to educate our own children from a very early age. As I consider the work being currently done within the Ministry of Education, be it the education sector plan, which we are currently working on, be it a meeting which I attended about 2 weeks ago in Guyana as the chair for the CARICOM Human Resource Development Commission, where we are looking at creating the ideal Caribbean citizen. And a large part of the focus in creating that ideal Caribbean citizen is that of early childhood education, being able to educate more and more of our children at a very early age. And so even as I consider it, the work which is being done is not only work which has helped the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, but work which we can say is helping us as a Caribbean as we take our place within the world and we try to develop the different Caribbean economies. Mrs. Cotton, quite often I would see messages on my desk indicating that Miss Cotton would like to have an appointment to see me. And immediately I know what Miss Cotton wants to see me about. It is time for Special Olympics. They are ready to travel, and of course the Ministry of Education is being called upon to make a donation to this endeavor. The significance, though, is not so much so that they are traveling to Special Olympics. I think what is more significant is the fact that those amongst us who are differently abled are given opportunities that those of us who are very much abled would normally have and would normally take for granted. Without that opportunity, many of those persons can only think of Olympics in terms of being able to see it on the television, in terms of being able to hear people speak about it. Here is Miss Cotton, who has a passion for the differently abled and has taken that passion not only in terms of their own local education in an institution here in St. Kitts and Nevis, but giving them exposure overseas, helping them to compete with other persons, not just from the Caribbean region, but from throughout the world. And that, I do believe, helps the differently abled in terms of their own development, be it their social development or be it their own frame of mind in knowing that there are other persons out there with similar circumstances. But despite having those circumstances, we can come together, we can compete against each other, and we can be accepted just as any other individual competing in any other sporting event. Nurse Isaac, the field of health, one which indeed is important to every single individual here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And her work, from what I have gathered, has gone way back into the days when we had leprosy here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Leprosy, of course, is now a disease of the past, but I must say I admire Nurse Isaac for working with persons who had leprosy. I grew up in Sandy Point. The leper home was located in Sandy Point. And as children growing up, it's a place that you kept away from. It's a place that was associated with fear because you hear that persons there, they have leprosy. It is something that you don't want to get. But yet, persons have to work with them. And Nurse Isaac excelled in that field and then moved on to other field of healthcare. Minister Phipps, of course, would agree with me that as we look at our own mental health day treatment facility, as we expand into the field of oncology, etc., nursing continues to play a very important role in terms of our own development. And as I said earlier, it is because of the work that these individuals have done in these various fields of our development why it is so much easier. The investment is probably less because these persons would have already pioneered work in these particular areas of our development. Miss Vanta Archibald, library services, the field of education, choral singing within her community, again, very, very significant and very important. The public library, as we know it, plays an important part in the education and the development of our people. For those who may not have the opportunity to visit other islands, a trip to the public library, opening books, reading books, helps to expand our own horizons. Numerous persons, I'm sure, would have used the public library for various fields of research. And finally, of course, well, not finally, because I have omitted Mr. Widdowson. I guess I was speaking to the ladies first. You know the good old saying, ladies first. And so now that I have spoken of the ladies, of course, I am at liberty to speak to the lone two males amongst the honorees. Mr. Widdowson. Mr. Widdowson, as I reflected on his story, what came to my mind is that quite often we frown upon persons of different islands, different countries moving into our own island, into our own country. Yes, we have free movement of persons within the OECS. We have signed various agreements within CARICOM. We have our citizenship by investment program, and we continue to welcome others to our shores for different reasons. But sometimes as a people, the fact is that we are somewhat intimidated when we know persons from overseas are coming here to live. There are those of us who feel they are coming to take our jobs, they are coming to utilize our resources without making the necessary contributions. But I think Mr. Widdowson is a good example of how regional movement of persons, of our Caribbean integration, of our the citizenship by investment program, though he didn't come through that particular program, but a good example of how we can have others coming to our shores to contribute towards our development and not taking away from what we have as a people. Mr. Widdowson has come, he has, since in the 70s, been a businessman. And today, we have Caribel Batik in particular to show of what he has been able to do here in St. Kitts and Nevis, a very important part of our own tourism product. We visit it, we utilize it, we encourage our tourists to come here, and we heard the fact that he has never, ever once applied for a work permit on behalf of any individual. That says that he has been able to hire our own local persons, providing employment for persons, providing income for many families who would have worked and continue to work at Caribel Batik. Finally, from Nevis, we have Mr. El Camido Willett, a sporting legend here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, one who many of us feel should have been given the opportunity to play for the West Indies cricket team. He never got that opportunity, but certainly he has paved the way for Kittitians and Nevisians to be given that opportunity. I have been told that he has played a test match, but never selected to the final team. He has played for the West Indies team for 5 matches. As the Minister of Sports, I guess I need a lesson. But El Camido Willett. And as we look at sports and what we are trying to do within sports, within the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, Mr. Willett stands out as a good example for our young people, for our young cricketers. It says to them that there is hope, and like he was able to excel, likewise, you can excel. When I look at the individuals, these are persons who have come from different nooks and crannies, different communities across St. Kitts and Nevis, of course, with the exception of Mr. Widdowson. And it says to our own young people that you too can succeed regardless of where you have come from, regardless of your economic circumstances, regardless of your social circumstances. You too can help to build this federation. It requires, of course, having passion, having dedication, having commitment. But with that right effort, you too, you can make your own contribution to this, the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. If the young people take nothing else from these persons, that is the lesson that they should take from them. Persons from Tabernacle, West Farm, Bastille, different communities within St. Kitts and Nevis. These are not persons who, as we would say, grew up with any golden spoon in their mouth or anything of that nature, but persons who have given, and when you listen, continue to give towards the development of St. Kitts and Nevis. And for that, I want us to give them a very special round of applause. I would end by saying that it would become a disservice to these men and women if, as a nation, we do not continue to build upon the foundation that they have laid. Be it in music, be it in sports, be it in education, be it in tourism development, be it in hospitality, Special Olympics, whatever it is, it would be a disservice to these men and women. It would be a disservice for us to be here honoring them because of their contribution when we do not take the opportunity to build upon the contributions that they have made. Ladies, gentlemen, our honorees, on behalf of the government, on behalf of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, I extend to you utmost congratulations. You are well deserving of being honored, and of such we take pleasure in being here amongst you this morning to share in this, your special moment. Thank you.